Okay. Let's see.
It's recorded.
All right, and everybody can see my PowerPoint. Perfect. All right, so we're recording. Hopefully that's okay with everybody. My name is Susan Tennis. I'm the admin assistant for the statewide FAIM program. West Central Communities Action is my employer. They host or administer the grant. Our main office is in Elbow Lake. We do have a branch office in Alexandria that I work from sometimes. If you ever need to reach me, my direct line is the 218-685-7071. If you can't reach me that day, I'm not very good about leaving an out of office on my voicemail, but I am pretty good about doing that on my email. So if you email me, you should get a kickback if I'm not in. Otherwise, I do have voicemail to email, so I do check those remotely if I'm not in the office. And again, my email is suti@wcmca.org, and office hours are Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30, except for major holidays. So today we're going to go over kind of an overview of the FAIM program, eligibility, enrollment, opening the FAIM savings account, client training requirements, obtaining the asset or doing a payout, and then the final piece is exiting the client from the program and closing the FAIM savings account. So if at any time you have questions, if you wait until the end of the page, I'll try to take a break and ask if there's any questions about that information. So do one more check here to see if we have anybody in the wait room. Does not look like it, so we'll continue. So Family Assets for Independence in Minnesota, or FAIM, came into existence around 1999 as a match savings program that was designed to help low-income families build assets. The program is funded by grants. We currently have a federal 0953 grant that will be closing in April. After that, we no longer have federal funds. So any funds that remain in that grant at the close at the end of April will be returned to the feds. We do have private grants. So occasionally an agency will send us funds and contract with WCMCA to administer their private match to enroll their clients. And that way they have access to doing client statements using our database. And then if they have payouts, they send the paperwork to me just like they would do for a FAIM client. We have state grants that we're operating on now. We began enrolling in the state-only funding in 2021. So this current grant that we have is Grant 2085. It just opened for enrollment on January 31st. There are about 65 slots. We may over-enroll a little bit to compensate for a drop rate that we have of about 10% or 15%. As of March 28th, we had about 30 applications that have already been submitted for those 65 slots. Of those 30, I would say about 15 to 20 have been approved and are enrolled in the system. The others are pending follow-up before they actually are enrolled. So any questions so far? We will continue. So again, West Central Communities Action, or WCMCA, is the administrator of the FAIM grants. Agencies throughout Minnesota contract with West Central to offer the FAIM program locally for their clients. So most of the partner agencies are CAP agencies or community action programs. We have a partner agency that is a women's advocacy service in the Twin Cities. And then we have a handful of agencies that don't fall within one of those categories. And so they subcontract with West Central to offer the program in their area. And then we partner with Bremer Bank to host the custodial FAIM savings accounts of each FAIM client. The bank provides a weekly upload to me, which I upload to the database so that the client accounts are accurate, usually within about a week. Those uploads usually happen on Tuesday afternoons. And then there's a final one at the end of the month to close out balances for the month. So typically, if you look in VistaShare, you should have a pretty good snapshot of where the client is at with their current balance of savings and match. So again, FAIM is a match savings program. So anyone enrolled in FAIM would earn 3-to-1 match on their deposits that are made to their FAIM savings account at Bremer Bank. So it is a designated account that has to be opened through their FAIM coach. It's not that they can just open an account anywhere and receive the match. It has to be through the program and with Bremer Bank. Clients enrolled in the state 2085 grant are allowed to save up to $2,000 per household in a lifetime. So that could be one person saving the full $2,000, or that could be, say, two people and they each save $1,000. So say a mom was wanting to save for home purchase and she had a child that was going to college. They could each have an account and save $1,000. She would get 3,000 match, he would get 3,000 match, and they would each be eligible for a payout of 4,000. Or one household member could save the full 2,000 in their FAIM account and then be eligible for the full $6,000 match, which would be an $8,000 payout toward their chosen asset track. So if anyone in the household has ever been in the program before, that can affect how much the client is eligible to save and receive match on because of the household lifetime limit. So again, that's $2,000 household savings per lifetime, or $6,000 match total. There is talk that that amount could change in future grants, but right now that is our limit. So the program enrollment does have timelines. So the client, once they're enrolled, they have a saving period of 24 months, from first deposit date. So they have 2 years to make the deposits that can be matched. If they make a deposit a day late after their 2-year anniversary, it can't be matched. It's a regulation. Interest is earned on their FAIM savings account, but the interest is not matchable. So when a client gets close to, say, reaching that $2,000, you've got to watch if they're going to put another $5 in and they have interest in there. And so they only put $4.97 in because they have 3 cents interest. They have to put the full $5 in to hit that 2,000 because that 3 cents would not be matched and they'd be short then. We have a minimum enrollment period of 1 year plus 1 day from first deposit date. So a client, if they've completed their trainings and asset requirements, they could request a full payout after 1 year and 1 day of enrollment. So they do not have to be in the program for the full 2.5 years, which is the maximum. But they do have to meet that year and a day minimum before they could request the full amount of savings and match to be paid out. So the maximum enrollment period, again, is 30 months or 2.5 years from the first deposit date. So that first deposit, not account opening date, the first deposit to the FAIM savings is actually what triggers the enrollment to the FAIM saving, or to the, pardon me, triggers enrollment to the FAIM program. So let's go to the next slide. I have a deck. Pardon me, I cannot talk today. I did not sleep well last night. So, so this is the timeline for participants in the program. So on the far left, you'll see first deposit to FAIM savings. I'm sorry?
We're not looking at your slides for some reason.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's try going back in and doing it again.
I can see your slides.
Oh.
Yep, I was seeing your slides too.
I can't
Okay.
see it.
Goofy.
I was seeing your slides too. I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah.
how's that?
I can see it.
Me too.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I will save this training to the FAIM website. So I'm sorry if you're having difficulty. It sounds like most everybody is seeing the slides. I don't know how to troubleshoot that. Okay, let me just check if I have anybody in the wait room here again. Oh. I apologize again. I'm still kind of learning the whole in and out of doing Zoom. So, all right, we'll just wait for them to join in here and we'll continue. Okay. And it looks like they may be stuck. All right. So back to the presentation here. So the participant timeline for FAIM on the far left is the first deposit to FAIM savings, which actually triggers their enrollment and their timelines. So 366 days after first deposit, or that 1 year and 1 day, is the minimum enrollment required to receive full payout. Now on the bottom on the left, you'll see that 6 months after first deposit date, a client may access up to half their account savings and match if they've saved it and use it for either home purchase or education only. The reason that we allow for those two and not the others is that we want clients to be able to access their savings and match if they're closing on a home sooner than they anticipated. Or if they're going to college, we understand that there are only so many terms during their enrollment. And so if a client had enrolled in February of this year, they could potentially access up to $1,000 savings and $3,000 match for their fall term if they've completed their trainings and saved that minimum of $1,000. So again, after 1 year and 1 day, they may request full payout of their $2,000 savings and $6,000 match for any asset track if they've completed the trainings and asset requirements for their chosen asset. So 2 years after first deposit, they reach their saving or deposit deadline. So any deposits made after their 2-year anniversary from first deposit date would not be eligible for match, and there's no exception. So they need to watch if they made if their anniversary date falls on a Sunday or maybe a Saturday. I would suggest they try to get to the bank on Friday to make the deposit rather than waiting till Monday, because if they wait till Monday and Sunday was their anniversary date, they would not receive the match on that deposit. So 2.5 years or 30 months after their first deposit date is their exit deadline. So by that time, they should have obtained their asset, spent out, used their funds, and then they should be exiting the program within that 30-month time period. Are there any questions about the timeline? I know it makes sense to me, but I've been doing it for 5 years, so. I must be a good trainer, no questions. All right, so we estimate that a FAIM coach would work with a client for about 25 to 30 hours during that client's enrollment in the program. And that could be screening for eligibility, program readiness, doing the application and account opening process with them, reviewing their reviewing their credit report, budgeting, and doing the one-on-one financial counseling, providing trainings, doing the payout request process, and completing the exit paperwork. So it could take more than that. Some clients need a little more training. Some clients may not take 25 to 30 hours. It just depends on their need. So to help defray the cost of your working with clients, the FAIM program will pay $1,300 coaching dollars to your agency if the enrolled client completes the 12 hours of required financial wellness training. So the coach would then submit the client's training completion certificate to me, and I would track those certificates and pay out the coaching dollars on a quarterly basis to those agencies. So we do have enough coaching dollars to pay out $1,300 per client for 65 slots. So again, over enrollments might not receive the coaching dollars if the funds are spent out, but if those funds will be paid first come, first serve as those certificates come in. So if an over enrollee completes the training early in their enrollment and an early enrollee doesn't complete the training, you may get funds for over enrollees, but we cannot guarantee that. Any questions on coaching dollars? So your agency can use those coaching dollars to help support the FAIM staff that's working with clients. You could use them to do the financial wellness trainings. You could provide a meal to encourage families to come if you're doing the training in the evening, say from 6 to 8 or 10, so that they have something to eat while they're there and wouldn't have to stop for supper. If they took a training somewhere else and they had to pay for that training, if your agency wants to use those funds to reimburse the client for taking the training, that would be acceptable too, as long as it's part of the required trainings for the FAIM program. So FAIM has 4 asset tracks, and the client will need to choose one when they enroll in the program. I know sometimes it's a hard decision. They don't know if they want to do home purchase or they want to save for their child's education, but they do need to choose one at the time of application. So the 4 that we currently offer are first-time home purchase, business development, post-secondary education, and personal vehicle purchase, which is new this since 2021 in the state grants. A lot of times we get the question, can a client change their asset during enrollment? And the answer, yes, they can change. Typically, we don't want to see them doing hopping from asset to asset. We want them to commit to an asset, because whichever asset they're doing, they have to do 10 hours of asset specific training. So if they start for home purchase and they have a life change and it's clear that they're not going to be able to buy a home and they want to switch to save for their child's education, they can do that. There is a contract amendment that they would have to fill out. And they should really seriously think about the change before they complete that contract amendment, again, because we don't want them continually changing assets during the program. So typically we would suggest one change. I wouldn't say we wouldn't give them a second change in asset tracks, but it's kind of discouraged to jump from one to another. So we're going to go into a little bit on the 4 asset tracks. So first, home purchase. FAIM has their own definition of first-time home buyer. So the client and/or their spouse or partner can't have purchased a home, or can't have owned a primary residence in the previous 3 years. If they have, they would not be eligible for home purchase asset track. So the FAIM funds can be applied to down payment and/or closing costs at the time of the home closing. We've been asked for FAIM funds to be used for earnest money. Unfortunately, we don't allow that, because if the FAIM client backed out of the home purchase, that home seller is not required to return all or part of the earnest money. And so for that reason, we cannot do FAIM payouts for earnest money. So some things to consider before the applicant is enrolled for home purchase. They need to have sustained employment and a credit score of about 640 or higher to get pre-approval for a mortgage. If they have inconsistent employment or a low credit score, you may want to work with them a little bit on improving that before you enroll them in the program, so that they would be prepared to purchase a home within the 30 months that the program allows. So again, does the client have debt or credit issues that they should work on and try to resolve? And can the client's budget support the cost of home ownership? Business development. That asset track has the most requirements. FAIM funds can be used to either start up an applicant's small business or to do expansion if they have an existing small business. We do have guidelines for the business development asset track on the website, which maybe we'll just hop over there and take a look. If I get my screen to cooperate. Let's see. Oops. Here we go. Okay, where did my... Okay. So you're seeing my screen again. This is the FAIM website, which is www.minnesotafaim.org. So on the FAIM website, we have, oops, if I can get my screen, here we go. So we have a FAIM coordinators tab at the top left, and that's where you'll find the forums, resources, and training information or the curriculum for the program. So on the FAIM forums page, I have some information about the grant that's ending, the grant that we just opened, and at the bottom, we have all of our lovely forms. And if you ever have questions, there's usually a checklist for about anything we have or a form for anything that we do. So, so for business, so at the top, first we have enrollment forms, and we have some budget and screening forms or assessment forms that could be used. We have our payout request forms, and then we go into our asset tracks. So for business development, let's see, guide to business development requirements. And so in order to receive a payout for business, the client needs to do a business plan. They need to work with a small business development center, SCORE, NEON, or some other type of business development center. Usually those services are free. That mentor will be able to assist the client in developing their idea into a business plan, doing a budget, and then that mentor will be required to sign off on the client's business plan before it is submitted for their payout. So we do have a template for the business plan and budget and use of FAIM funds on our website. If they don't use the FAIM templates, then they do need to still cover all the topics that are in our business plans. So we want to see a marketing plan. We want to see who their intended clients would be. So again, they do need to do a business plan and budget. They need to provide details. Our business plan is about 10 pages long for the template. We get business plans sometimes that are 4 pages long. So they cut things out or they only provide a couple sentences in each section. We need to see a detailed business plan. The idea is that they could potentially take that business plan to a lender and request a loan. So we want to see a good solid business plan that once you read it, you have a good idea of where they started with the business, what their knowledge and training is, their who their customers are, how long they've been operating, what their intention is for growing the business, etc. So we need details on that business plan. So the client will need to apply for an EIN with the IRS. Even if they're a sole proprietor, we require the EIN number in order to set them up in my agency's fiscal system. So without the EIN, we can't do a payout to that client's business. We do require current proof of a current business checking or savings account that has to be opened at a financial institution or credit union that is insured. And we do advise clients to retain their receipts for any purchases that they made using FAIM funds. Just because if we were audited as a program, we have to retain our files, I believe, for 7 years. And so the client then should also have their receipts saved in a file for 7 years in case we need to contact them for program review or audit. Or also if they had a tax audit, it would be beneficial to have those documents available as well. So. Okay. So again, the client would need the qualified reviewer from the business development center that they work with. Typically, it's a free service. Those development centers usually have grants that support them to help the creation of new businesses. And the client, once they apply for FAIM, if they want to do business asset, it would be a good idea to ask them what their idea is for expansion or startup of a business. I've heard from some plan reviewers or some of the mentors have contacted me because they get clients that go in there, well, I want to start a business. Well, what's your idea? Well, I don't know. What do you think? And so it's a little frustrating for them because they're using their valuable time as well to work with someone. And if a client doesn't have a good idea to build on, it's really difficult for them to be able to help them build a business plan. So one point to note is sometimes clients want to use FAIM funds for their business to purchase a vehicle. That is very, very limited. I think in the time I've been here, we've only allowed one client to use funds for business expansion to purchase a vehicle so they could hire another employee to help them with their landscaping business. But there's a lot of tax implication and how they claim it and the mileage and such. So rather than opening a can of worms, FAIM has chosen not to allow the vehicle purchase unless it's the last resort best use of funds for that client's business. The third asset track we offer is post-secondary education. Education is the only asset track where a client is allowed to save on behalf of a spouse, child, or tax dependent. So again, it has to be a direct family member. FAIM funds may be used for tuition, but it has to be used at an accredited post-secondary education institution within the United States. So if they are not an accredited college, FAIM is not able to do a payout. A good indicator of whether they're accredited or not would be if they accept FAFSA or financial aid. Usually if they do accept that, they are typically an accredited college or university. FAIM funds may be used to obtain books or equipment that are required for the course. But the requirement has to be noted in the class description, and that say computer, laptop, camera, if it's for a photography class, whatnot, that item has to be obtained through the campus bookstore and has to be charged to the student's accounts. They can't just go on Amazon and buy one because it's cheaper, because we can't reimburse the student. We have to pay the third party, which would be the college. So one thing to keep in mind is that FAIM overall is a 30-month program. So in order to use the FAIM funds, that student will need to be taking courses within that time frame. Lastly, personal vehicle purchase. This is new for the FAIM program. The agency that we contract or that contracts with us to do private match has offered vehicle asset as something for their own clients that we've used their curriculum, and I don't think I've done a payout yet for personal vehicle purchase under the FAIM guidelines, but so this is kind of a work in progress for us. It seems a little cumbersome. I've had a lot of questions about the requirements that we're needing documentation for, and it's a work in progress. We'll try to work out the kinks as we go. But so this asset track is intended for households that do not own a reliable vehicle and need transportation to obtain or retain employment. So if someone already has a vehicle and it's running great and whatnot, and they just want to save to be able to replace that one because they don't last forever, unfortunately, that person is probably not our target audience for that grant or for that asset track, because we're looking to help families who have either unreliable transportation, that they're putting good money after bad into a old vehicle that's not getting them here and there, or for someone who does not have a vehicle available at all. So the vehicle being purchased has to be titled to the FAIM applicant only. They cannot purchase the vehicle for someone else in their household or whatnot. It has to be the person who is applying for FAIM is the person who would be buying and driving that vehicle. So the FAIM applicant will need to have a valid driver's license and vehicle insurance at the time of purchase. If they don't have one at the time of application, that is okay. They do need a photo ID to open their FAIM account, but that will have to be a goal in their plan to be able to obtain their asset, is to obtain that driver's license and vehicle insurance. FAIM funds cannot be used for those purposes. All those funds have to go for the actual purchase. So we do have a guideline for vehicle purchase on our website as well. So let's see if I can hop back to that here. Okay, vehicle purchase guidelines. Okay, so in order to, this one, let me see if I have another one here, because that is for the other grant for last year. Here we go. So prior to the purchase, the applicant cannot already own a reliable vehicle. We have a minimum enrollment of a year and a day from first deposit. They have to successfully complete financial wellness training and a car care buying class. They have to show consistent deposits to their FAIM savings, and the coach will need to confirm that the participant's budget can support the cost of vehicle ownership. So ability to pay for vehicle insurance, maintenance, repairs, tab renewal, driver's license renewal. So eligible use of funds, they can purchase a personal vehicle from a reputable dealership or private party. The purchase price, we have capped it at $16,000 if they can obtain a loan at or below 5% interest rate for the remaining balance beyond what FAIM can pay. So again, if the client saves $2,000, they would get $6,000 match for a total of $8,000 toward vehicle purchase. So they can either shop for a vehicle for $8,000, or if they can obtain a loan at 5% or under, they could buy a vehicle at $16,000 if they can get that additional loan. So FAIM funds cannot be used for vehicle purchase from an auction. They cannot purchase luxury or high performance sports vehicles, motorhomes, RVs, semis, motorcycles, that kind of thing. We're looking at a car or pickup, but we are not buying a Ferrari. Let's just say it needs to be a reasonable vehicle, and motorcycle is not allowed because we are in Minnesota, and unfortunately riding a motorcycle in the middle of January is probably not the best idea. So vehicle accessories or upgrades. So basically, say they want to chrome out their vehicle, FAIM isn't going to help them pay for that. We can't pay for their vehicle insurance. We can't pay for vehicle repairs or maintenance. We've been asked if someone can enroll in FAIM and use their funds for their existing vehicle loan. Unfortunately, that's not allowed. And we can't help with fines or fees right now to obtain their Minnesota driver's license if they have those. So again, it's going to be a little cumbersome. I've had some questions about this process, and it seems like too much, and nobody's going to hold a vehicle for the client that long. But we have done payouts, half a dozen for this other agency, and kind of built our program around how they operate theirs. And so far it's been working for that. So we, at the time of payout, the client would need to have a valid Minnesota driver's license, valid vehicle insurance. We would need the Kelly Blue Book or NADA guides value for the vehicle that they're purchasing, because we want to make sure that they're not overpaying for a vehicle. We want a vehicle inspection report with a passing grade. We do have a template for that on our website. We'll need a W-9 from the dealership or seller so that we can add them to our fiscal system. Without that W-9, we can't cut the check to that seller. We need a signed copy of a purchase agreement with the vehicle description on it. So we need a copy with the payout request, and then we'd need a final copy with the FAIM funds marked paid on that purchase agreement to show our funds were applied, and that the same vehicle was purchased as was requested in the payout. We would also require a copy of the front and back of the title. And if there's a lien release, we'd like a copy of that as well. So again, a copy with the payout and another copy after the purchase has been made to show that the title will be transferred to the FAIM applicant. So again, that title has to be transferred to just the FAIM participant. It cannot be, say I was the applicant and I was married, it cannot be Susan Tennis and George Tennis. It would have to be to my name only. Okay. Any questions on the asset tracks? Okay. Some things to consider when choosing an asset track. So at the point of applying for education, the applicant needs to consider the age of their student, when they would be attending college, and will they have grants or scholarships, because we do have on occasion someone who actually has a lot of grants and scholarships, and when it comes time to do the payout, there's nothing left for FAIM to pay, which is great. But they've just taken a spot from someone who could have benefited from the program. So for home purchase, look at credit score. They need to have steady employment, and will their budget support the ongoing cost of owning a home? So, you know, some of them may be on the fence a little bit with where they're at, but they would have a couple years to improve their situation. So they may need a little more one-on-one financial coaching or counseling from you to help them get to the point where they could be ready to buy a home. So for business development, again, they need to have a solid idea for starting up or expanding their business. They need to consider the best use of their FAIM funds, and is their business idea for expansion or startup feasible? The business they would start does have to be a legal business. I guess that we don't want to make assumptions there, but it does need to be a viable legal business. And the idea of business development is not to support someone's hobby. It is actually our goal to see someone doing small business to grow it to the point where they no longer would need outside employment. So we want to see a business that is going to hopefully support them in the long term and get them out of having to search for other employment. So vehicle purchase, again, they need a valid driver's license and insurance. And will their budget support the cost of owning a vehicle? One thing that has come up over the years, can I buy a house in Michigan with my FAIM funds? It's in the name, Family Assets for Independence in Minnesota, but a lot of people don't understand that and have wanted to buy a home somewhere else or start a business in Florida. Well, that's not allowed, because especially now we're using only Minnesota taxpayer dollars to support the program. So any FAIM asset purchased has to be within Minnesota. So start a business in Minnesota, purchase a home or vehicle in Minnesota. Education is the only workaround in that funds can be used if they're taking online courses or attending a college in another state. They do need to retain their Minnesota residency, but they can use funds for another college as long as it's within the United States. So does a client have debt that might prohibit them from obtaining an asset within the time allowed? Can their earned income and budget support monthly deposits to FAIM savings? And then another thing to consider, if there are coworkers, friends, or family who want to apply for the program, check with your agency to see what your internal policies are on enrolling somebody that you're acquainted with, to make sure there's no conflict of interest. All right, how about we take maybe a 5-minute break? Is everybody doing okay? Any questions on the information so far? Okay, I hope I haven't put everybody to sleep because there's silence. So we'll see you back here. So it's about 1:45. How about we see you back here at about 5:02?